but it's one of those kind of cars that just is jaw-dropping, even here on a stand at Festival of Speed.
This whole environment, this place, is a massive passion for mine. And I've actually been coming here since, I was like 12 years old with my dad.
For those of you that don't know, I'm Sam from the YouTube channel Seenthroughglass, and I've been hosting some great chats here on the Genesis stand at this year's Festival of Speed. And right now, I'm being joined by photography legend, icon, Alex Stead.
Thank you very much for having me.
If you don't know who Alex is, delete your Instagram. You don't deserve to have it. But no, in all seriousness, how would you sort of sum up, what's your elevator pitch when you meet somebody, what you do?
Well, originally I was known for my travel photography, and then I've moved in the last 5 years to automotive photography. So if you look at my style, I try to really encapsulate, whatever I'm shooting, if it's a car, if it's a location. So, I've spent, the last 10 years working as a commercial photographer and been 60 different countries around the world, photographing from, penguins to the GV60.
And did the switch to cars happen because it pays well, or because you're a car guy?
No. I've always loved cars. I literally always wanted to be kind of an automotive photographer, but the way I kind of came into the industry was very different to what I ever expected. So I actually used to be one of those kids, with my camera running around London chasing Koenigseggs or whatever, whatever you find in Knightsbridge. So I've always had a passion for it since I was a kid. I think, I was just talking to one of the members and they were saying, how many times have you come to Goodwood? And I've actually been coming here since, I was like 12 years old with my dad. So this whole environment, this place, this cars is a massive passion for mine. And I slowly worked my way back into the industry I wanted to be into, through being back home at COVID. So, if I was shooting private cars, collectors, if I was, reaching out to different brands to see if they wanted to do something travel related with cars. So that kind of slowly brought me more and more back into the industry. And, now I would say automotive photography is like my biggest income, but I don't think that's that important. I think it's my biggest passion, so I'm kind of following that.
Hands up if you've attempted to take a photo of a car here today at Festival of Speed. I think most people in the room have at least tried. When you then see Alex's photos in a few days, you'll be like, what was I doing wrong? It isn't as easy as we all think. So when you switched from, I guess, the travel stuff, did you have to kind of teach yourself how to capture a car in your style or in a way that you thought? Like, was it harder than you realized?
Capturing a car is a damn hard job. It is so hard. There's so much planning, preparation. With the travel stuff, there's a lot of more luck involved in terms of good lighting, good environment, being in the right place at the right time. Obviously, you can create your own luck by researching and being there, but with automotive stuff, it is so tricky. So I'd say I kind of learned on the way of going. So you do one shoot, you obviously learn, you do another shoot. And I'd say I'm still learning from every single shoot I do. You learn new skills, you learn new techniques, you learn new environments. I'm kind of, with some shoots, I'm thrown into the deep end. Like, for example, I went to a shoot the other week, and I landed at like 7 a.m. in Germany. I had 48 hours to shoot this car and this tire. I was working for the client. I've never been to the area. I've never been to that location before. I've never met any of the team. And I've just got to adapt to the environment and the car to figure out which features are worth capturing, which features aren't, what's its good side, what's its bad side. So there's so much to it to figure out so quickly. But I really enjoy that challenge.
I always think when you come to Festival of Speed, it's like an obvious thing. You've got the burnouts off the start line, right? You've got the flybys by the house. Anytime I try and do any kind of panning shot, I miss the car, or it's blurry, or it just doesn't turn out that good. Is it quite good here that you've got 4 days to just hone in and keep practicing on getting that epic burnout shot? Is this quite a good environment for you?
It's an excellent environment, but it's still so hard. I'm still missing shots, especially the panning shots are one of the hardest things. And Goodwood's one of the hardest places to work because, when we do panning shots for companies, we'll do 15 runs of that, or maybe 10 runs to get different angles, different shots. Here you've got 2 attempts, perhaps, with not much warning the car's coming. So it is a really hard environment to work in Goodwood, but it's so awesome because there's so many cool things happening and so many cool drivers and, things to see. So yeah, I can't complain.
It's a really niche insight here, but obviously I occasionally film the hill climb, and maybe you're looking out for one or two specific cars, and you think when they do the run for that batch, it will be in the same order. You go, okay, there's that car, it's going to be the next one. Oh no, it's not. And every time you put your camera down, then the car you want to film appears. So you just always have to be ready just to snap or film the car. It's endlessly frustrating. But look, let's just quickly for a moment touch on Genesis. We're obviously here on the Genesis stand. I actually remember seeing some of your shots, I guess one of your shoots with a car, because it was when I first was starting to discover Genesis. So how did they get in touch with you? Like, how does that work as a photographer? Do brands reach out to you? Do you request the car? How does that work?
So I first met Genesis was actually, you know, when they were launching in the UK, they held an event where we could drive about 3 different models of their car. So that was a really cool environment to just have the day, get to know the brand, get to know what they're about, you know, the different features, why they're a bit different, you know, how they operate. So that was a really good introduction to the brand. And then, you know, throughout the years, I've done different shoots in Germany. I've shot different models within the UK. We did the GV60 launch in Germany, which was really, really cool. I think that was one of my favorite launches.
I want to know why. You
Why?
can't throw a comment away with that, because I would say some of my favorite launches have good food. So why was that launch so good?
I really enjoyed it from a photography perspective. We were in the Black Forest of Germany, and we, you know, woke up early, went up to the Black Forest, and there was just loads of mist. There was a good environment. We went in through the woods. I think it was just a really cool and different, you know, environment for me to shoot in with, you know, a brand I haven't, you know, worked with before. So that was really cool to do that.
And you shoot by yourself most of the time?
You know, it depends on budget, to be honest. I shoot, you know, sometimes it can be a team of like 15, 20 people. I mean, one of the productions we did at the start of this year was, I think maybe it's between 50 and 100 people, but that was like full cinema kind of style. Most of the time, it's usually me, an assistant, maybe a videographer. There might be 3 of us, 2 of us. I mean, honestly, it can just be me, though. That's the hardest part. Sometimes it can be just me.
It's like that TikTok viral video of the guy who sets up the camera, runs away from it, and then walks slowly back towards it with
That's
a meaningful
pretty much
scene.
me. Yeah, no, honestly, like for the last shoot, it was just myself. So I was shooting a tire for a car brand, and I was literally like, I thought tire, pretty easy to shoot. No. You have to set it up perfectly so the logo is a certain direction, get all the cleaning stuff out, clean it all up. You're not public roads, so if someone comes around at 5 a.m, you're like, okay, I'll just start all that process again. So it's not easy, but it's good fun.
And cleaning tires is a real nightmare if you're doing photos. So go back to the early days, I guess, when you started to switch into automotive. What did you think, what was like your first big break, I guess, commercially, or at least working with a brand?
I can't remember how it kind of first came around. I think I was on a collaboration between, you know, Mercedes and Lufthansa years and years ago, and then it's just kind of, that was about 7 years ago, and then slow momentum throughout the industry, you know, through the years. I wouldn't say there was a big break. Honestly, it was more just like bloody working hard as I can to try get those breaks and those opportunities, and, you know, try get brands to hire me for photo shoots. I mean, it's one thing to get invited as a photographer to PR events and, you know, test drive a car, but the next thing is to do a full-on production and photo shoot. I mean, I started getting production stuff when I was like 22, and it was wild to me, and I got more and more used to, you know, there's such a process coming out and shooting a product or a car. You know, there's permits, you've got to research locations. I mean, it's not just as simple as turn up in a lovely place and shoot a car. It's like there's so many logistical and safety challenges we've got to do. You know, for example, when we do tracking shots, that is like a whole safety nightmare to make sure, firstly, the location is brilliant, but also turnaround points, safety location, harness, permits, et cetera, et cetera. So it's, yeah, there are lots to go into these productions.
The first commercial shoot I did, I remember, obviously up until that point, I'd be filming by myself. So if I was doing tracking shots or flybys, I could do whatever I wanted. And this director kept saying, so this bit, we need speed, but as long as you're safe. Speed that you feel safe with. I'm like, so how fast is that? Whatever you feel safe with. I was like, so yeah, there's a lot of health and safety required. So what about types of cars? I would assume the sportier, the sleeker the car, the more excited you get. But am I wrong? Do you love shooting an SUV? Like, tell us about what kind of cars excite you.
Honestly, I love a sports car, but practically, I love like a shooting brake. You know, I don't own one, but for me, a shooting brake is so cool. I'm a big fan. I drove the Genesis shooting brake, and I think that's probably one of my favorite cars Genesis make, just because I think it's just such a cool little looking thing. And I think for a shooting brake, firstly, it's fast enough, it's practical, and for a photographer, I've got so much stuff. I have ridiculous amounts of stuff, and I drove down here today, not going to mention which car, and most of the stuff is on the seats at the moment, so I need a practical car, basically what I'm trying to say.
The less
hint,
space
hint.
you get. But from a photography, so when I'm filming, if I'm in a big SUV, I struggle to get them angles because I find like it's harder, like it's a bit more of a blocky shape. Is that the same for you? Like how much does the shape of the car change where you're shooting it, what angles you're getting, things like that?
I mean, every car has its own challenge because they're all different shapes and sizes. And I mean, SUVs, I think you just got to put the car in the environment it looks natural in. I think there's no point shooting, like a sports car on a mucky road. So if you chuck a Genesis 4x4 or any 4x4 in the right environment and have, the right drama and the right, kind of environment going around it, I think that is the most best thing you can do with any car shoot, is just make it look natural in its environment. But it is harder to shoot bigger cars. It is generally harder to make it look, because car brands want stuff to look sporty and aggressive and that kind of thing. And then, there's a lot of powerful SUVs now, so it kind of goes against one another, that you want it to look low and sporty, and it's actually a massive SUV with 700 horsepower.
Well, speaking of low and sporty, perfect segue, Alex, onto the Magma range. Obviously, we've got various Magma concepts here on the Genesis stand this year. We're flanked right now by this incredible GV60 Magma concept, which has been announced as going into production, which excites me because I think in terms of visuals, obviously we don't quite yet know how these things drive, but in terms of visuals, that hits the brief for me. I love firstly the color, but the aggressiveness of it. It screams sport, performance, and that would turn me on. But does it do the same for you? Because it's not a two-door sports car. But do you agree that some of these new wider panels, wider arches, wings?
I love it, yeah. It looks so cool. I mean, I'm generally up for driving it, but I'm also getting slightly terrified of how fast electric cars are getting. I'm generally like, does it need 700, 800 horsepower? I think I drove one last week with over 900 horsepower. I'm like, an electric car? But I think that's so cool as well, because it's, it's innovation, it's changing the industry, and I'm up for it. I'm up for seeing the changes coming forward.
That's my whole thing. Everyone has their debate here as petrol heads. The word says petrol at the start. What is the future? EV, hydrogen, synthetic fuels, etc. But if it's going to be an electric powertrain, I think it should be as wild, as futuristic, as different. Go for it. Because don't try and replicate what we already have. Do something completely wild.
I agree.
Some of the noises coming out of, especially that GV60 Magma concept, is pretty wild. What about the saloons, the big old fast saloon around the corner as well, the G80? Are you a fan of a powerful fast saloon?
For me, a saloon's quite relaxing and nice, but also I love that little bit of subtle power. I think for me, it's not always having to be loud, but I think getting that gap or going onto motorway or something, it's nice to have that amount of power to just fly you through a gap instead of being like, okay, someday I'll get onto the motorway. But I love a saloon to be kind of just relaxing and calm place to be, because for me, when things are hectic, you should be in some kind of sports car.
Let's talk about driving. You do a lot of road trips, as do I. Modern cars these days, my God, do they offer a lot of features, a lot of comfort. It's kind of like every car can do everything. What do you look for in a car? So are you a cruise control obsessive? Are you someone who loves your sound systems, loads of infotainment? What's important when it comes to new cars?
Sound system. No, definitely. I mean, I've been driving so much recently. I think I calculated last month, I did 5,000 miles in 3 weeks, because I went from Le Mans to around and then up and down to Edinburgh. And I was like, I've driven so far. And, it depends what kind of journey you're doing. I mean, I drove down to the Alps and was like, okay, the journey's going to suck, but I want a sports car at the other end. I want something quick, so I'll take my own car. And then other stuff, I just love cruising. I mean, I'm just perfectly fine just listening to a podcast and just relaxing on the motorway. I think for me, having a good sound system, not a ton of wind noise. I can't stand wind and road noise on a car. It drives me insane. When you've driven 8 hours with a car, sports car, you're like, okay, I should have bought something else, but I think definitely having, quietness, I think double glaze. I mean, it's cool to see brands bringing double glazing windows into kind of more everyday cars, because that used to be something on the really high end I don't know, Bentleys or something, but it's actually double glazed glass is pretty much entering a lot of, normal road cars now these days. So
Yeah, I think the amount of luxury you can get now at a relatively affordable price point is actually quite spectacular because, suddenly it makes all cars easier to live with, more enjoyable to live with, where before you had to put up with a lot of sort of...
And everything's automatic now, which for some people probably would be quite hated of, but for me, I'm up for an auto. I don't need to change gear every 10 seconds or whatever it is. So I'm down for an auto.
I can totally imagine. One question I always wanted to ask, I got tipped off this from another photographer. When you're shooting a car, do you have the headlights on or headlights off?
Headlights on.
Headlights on.
Well,
what's that about?
It just kind of defines the shape a bit better because you kind of get the headlight. A lot of headlights have incredible features. Like if you look at the Genesis now, it's really beautiful, intricate little details, and just to miss out on that is such a shame. And I think it really pulls the car together, especially rear headlights as well. It defines the shape of the car, and the designers have kind of designed it to have those lights on, to be honest. So with a lot of the time we use daylight run-ins, we don't have the full headlights on, so we usually have LED run-ins, which are probably on most cars now, and then with the rear lights they're on as well, because I think it just really brings the car together. Especially if the car is silver or it's a different color to, the headlight. I mean, it might be harder on this because it's orange and headlights are red, so it kind of towards blends in, but with a car which is silver or something, it completely pulls the image together, and it just, it catches your eye a bit better, I think, with headlights showing.
Especially if there's mist and rain, accentuating all of that. If somebody was thinking of getting into this space, right, obviously street supercar spotting has been something that even I got involved with in the early days. It's a relatively easy way to get up and running, but I guess defining a style is quite important. Would you say, like even on Instagram, on TikTok, like you've got to, how do you go about doing that? If everyone's got an iPhone, which... fantastic. How do you go about finding something that sort of, defines a style as a photographer?
I think it's so important. I think at the early stages, it's really cool going to car meets, going to central London to shoot cars. But I think the main thing you can do to move away from that and actually look a bit more serious and if you want to take this seriously and move into the commercial space, is shooting new models, making your own photo shoots, and that could be shooting your neighbor's new car. It doesn't have to be the newest, latest, greatest supercar. Your neighbor could have got a new Golf R, and you could be like, look, I'll go out for a few hours in the morning with you. Would you let me shoot your car? And you just make it look like a proper commercial shoot, and you really go into the details. You wash it, you make sure everything's sparkling, you make sure the wheel caps are the right way up. Things like that, just the small little details. And I think, I see a lot of talented people, and it's incredible seeing them work at, car events and different, going car spotting in London. But if they want to take it to the next stage, I think it's so important to start making it look like less you're at a car scene and make it more look like, you're actually going out on physical, photo shoots, being involved in these productions, even if it might just be you and your neighbor in his Golf. And I think that's so cool to set, and then you can send that to a brand, and I think they find that a lot more valuable in terms of, instead of car spotting, that's a commercial shoot. Wow, he's done that. You could shoot for dealerships. I mean, dealerships have such a need for content. If they're not a main dealership, they're not getting tons of content in from, headquarters. So reaching out to your local dealership and be like, can I come do a shoot of a car? And, we'll both get something out of it. So, it's a tough industry to break into, but I think there's certain ways which you can move along. I think the start is really important, just to be out, being active, being part of events, go to things and shoot. But I think moving your career along and moving your portfolio along really takes a big leap, and I think you've got to be willing to spend your own money, you've got to be willing to take risks, you've got to be willing to go out of your way to do those things.
Easy one. Favorite location? Where's been your favorite location to shoot?
Italy, 100%. I love Italy. I love shooting in Italy. I love the locals most of the time when they're nice. If you're driving something Italian, it helps. But any car they're hugely passionate about, cars and stuff. So shooting in Italy, it's not hard to go wrong. And you've got the Dolomites, you've got, Tuscany, you've got everything there. So I love Italy. Yeah, it's super cool.
And when you dropped into somewhere like, hey, come and test out the new GV60 Magma concept, here's your location, where do you start with finding someone to actually take the photos? Are you a Google Maps beast? Do you just kind of drive around and see what you can find?
Definitely, I spend so much time on Google Maps. Honestly, like the little icon man you move around. Yeah, I literally like look around all the streets, where I'm going, like what I'm doing, and look around the area. And sometimes the client will suggest stuff. I'll do my own research completely from scratch, because not always they might have seen something, they might not understand the practicality of doing a certain shot, safety-wise turning spots. Because sometimes I've been taken to places and I'm like, right, the nearest turning circle is about 17 miles down the road safely, so we're going to get one run at this, and it's like, this is nuts. So there's so many things I'm not a control freak, but perhaps I am, because I want to arrive at the shoot and like understand the location. I want to feel like I've been there, which is, going on Google Street View and learning every like little bit and be like, oh, I know there's a lay-by down there, so we can turn around there. So there's a lot of preparation before.
One car that I would love to shoot properly is the ex-Gran Berlinetta, obviously the Gran Turismo car, which is now here.
Oh my God, it's so cool.
It's outrageous, right?
I was shooting it this morning at 6:30 in the morning.
But on the stand?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they like rolled it off.
No, I was just driving around town.
Yeah. I was like, that'd be
Popped the
so
Chichester.
The angles of it are just amazing. Wouldn't you love to just dump that in like Knightsbridge?
Yeah.
Just to see what happens. Like,
probably someone will, won't they?
Probably at some point. But it's one of those kind of cars that I say just is jaw-dropping. Even here on a stand, it catches everyone's attention. And I think, concept cars can be hit and miss, but yeah, I love the looks of that, and I think a lot of people do. How much of that new age stuff are you doing? Is most of the stuff you end up doing actual production versions? When you see concepts like all these Magma concepts, is that kind of too early on for you?
I've done pre-concept stuff where they've all been wrapped, which has always been a bit weird to shoot, because I'm like, right, you've put a wrap on this to disguise the car so the public can't see, but you want me to shoot it so the public can see. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but yeah, I remember doing a couple of those and I was like, this isn't the greatest shoot, especially when the whole dashboard, it's not just the outside, it's the inside. I'm sure you've done it. The whole dashboard's covered. I was driving, I'm not going to mention a brand, and I was going down the road and everything just went black, and I'm like, is this normal? Like, I had nothing. Everything just died. He's like, yeah, it's a concept car, don't worry. Like, it'll come back. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely been some interesting experiences over the years when you're getting into the newer cars. Just in case, I'm telling the audience one more time.
What are some of the common misconceptions that people think about your lifestyle if they just see your content online and everything online? What do people ask you that you think, oh, that's not actually how I live and how I operate?
What I do, I'm so lucky to do it. I love traveling. I love, seeing different places. I've been luckily all over the world, and I think the misconception is that it's easy. I mean, that's one misconception, probably mostly by my family and my sisters. Like, oh, he's just dossing around in Antarctica. Just leave him to it. Like, he's getting paid to do that. What a joke. And then, like, actually, I'm busting my ass with, 20 kilos of equipment most of the time, 10, 15, 20 kilos of equipment. I've got so many deliverables. I've got different concepts. I've got to think of, video and photo sometime. And, I'll work as hard as I have to. It's not like, oh, I'll wake up at 9 and then casually chill on the shoot, take a couple of shots, have something to do. I think actual reality of being a photographer is that you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. and you're going to go probably to bed at like 11, 12. You're going to be editing so hard and working so hard at every hour of the day.
It's that also pressure, which I think you have more than me. Everyone's got a camera on their phone. Everyone's taken a great picture. So sometimes they won't understand what goes in, what the difference is to what you're doing to, I'll just put it in portrait mode and get a quick snap.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to it. You've probably seen some of my equipment here. I've spent a fortune on my equipment. Not saying equipment's important, but I think once you get to a certain level of commercial photography, you've really got to invest what you're earning back into it. Into different lenses, different pieces of equipment, because, if I charge a client top rate for a commercial shoot and I turn up with a kit lens and a basic camera, they're not going to be most impressed. But if you're doing like more casual stuff and you're building your career, that's absolutely fine. So that's also one thing, is I've invested an absolute fortune to ensure my clients have the sharpest lenses, the best equipment, the highest quality video and whatever they need.
I think one misconception on my side is to make it look like you're having a really great drive on a great driving road is much harder work than
But for
people
you,
appreciate.
you're setting up a camera, driving away into the distance, driving back, picking up that camera, putting it on the next corner, and then you make it look relaxing. I'm not sure how that's relaxing, because I watch your videos and I'm like, okay, Sam's just driven away from that camera, now he needs to go collect it, and then he's doing a GoPro shot, and then he's got to, I think we went out to shoot once, and you're like, we went to shoot years ago, and you were like, Alex, my GoPro's fallen off the car and it's in a ditch somewhere. I think it was near
Total
here.
nightmares. I'm not making it back. I'm looking for a GoPro in a ditch. But that's it. To do a mile-long road for a YouTube video takes 3 hours to film 200 meters after 200 meters after 200 meters. And the amount of times that I get back into the car out of breath from running to get a camera, and I'm like, yeah! Woo! So, yeah, I think that's easily a misconception of how much is going on to deliver that one scene, that one shot. Do we have any other questions at the moment from the floor? Yep, just here with the jacket.
Hi. Do you have any tips for the edit? Is more or less better?
In terms of photography editing tips, I mean, I think it's so important to find your own style, but I think it's also a really good idea to figure out how other people create their style. So a lot of them are putting their, tutorials on YouTube or all over the internet, which is brilliant because, I still, watch people's YouTube videos and I'm super interested how they got that. It's not that, okay, it's not like I want to copy their style and I want to be that photographer. It's just I'm really interested in how they got that effect, how they edited it, and I want to bring it into my own work, perhaps that little bit. So I think it's really important to understand how everyone edits in the industry as much as you can, and then I hone in your own skills and kind of figure out how that looks and keep evolving, because it's not like I've just got my style and that's it. I'm never going to change how I edit. I think technology is always evolving in terms of Lightroom and Adobe, but I think it also is important to evolve your own style. And if you look at probably through my Instagram, it is similar, but it slowly evolves. And I think that's important as a photographer, is always been evolving, because you're improving, you're getting better. I mean, I think I'm going to be doing that when I'm 60 years old, probably still, is still learning. So.
And do you alter images? Obviously nowadays, AI is constantly being evolved. If you got a car on a shoot, just take any of the Genesis range, would you add in burnout smoke? Would you do you ever do that, or that's not your style?
Not particularly. I think especially with my travel stuff, I'm known for my travel work a lot of the time, and I won't start adding penguins or mountains into places they're not in. It's just not me. I'll be at the scene and I'll be really keen to capture that moment. But in the automotive space, perhaps it's a little bit different. I'm not going to be adding mountains or birds or anything stupid or making it look like an AI image, but there are certain points where AI comes into it, and it's really important to get rid of dirt and dust and make the car clean. And perhaps if there's a signpost in the way, AI will get rid of that. But I don't think this is anything new. Everyone's freaking out about AI. Oh, I can remove a signpost. I'm like, I was doing that when I was 12 years old on Photoshop. Like, it's just doing it better. So it's the same stuff, but it's just doing it better with AI.
100%, and quicker sometimes.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question.
I believe you've been to lots of places to do the videography or the photography. Do you have your dream location?
Dream location.
Dream location.
That is a good one. I did some stuff in New Zealand a few years ago, which for me that was pretty spectacular, and I would love to get back down there because it was a rushed trip, and I think I could definitely do it better. So revisiting New Zealand, and then Iceland is one that I've always wanted to go and do. If they end up doing a safari version of any of the Genesis range, but on a bit of bigger suspension, I'll be off there to Iceland. But how about you, mate?
Probably similar to you. New Zealand would be awesome. I've been to New Zealand quite a few times for travel projects, but oh my God, the roads are insane, and a cool car there would be nuts. But sadly, not a lot of PR stuff ever happens down there because it's just so far away. I'd also love to do one in Patagonia. The roads there, insane. Iceland would be a really unique one. So there's definitely so many on my list, but from a practicality point of view with a lot of these brands, these are really hard projects to make happen because within Europe, we're super lucky. We've got some of the biggest manufacturers in the world, and they're all in Milton Keynes or around this area. So it's so easy to get the car you need to do a photo shoot, but practicality-wise, unless the budget is absolutely ginormous and a big launch shoot, you're not going to get a car to New Zealand or Patagonia, which is super disappointing, but that's why we end up shooting in Europe so much.
Having said that, if we team up,
Yeah.
we both know people at Genesis. I think there's a GV70 that we could take to Iceland. That feels like a trip that can
just
happen.
pop it on the ferry.
I'm looking around the room. I feel like that's a lot of content.
Where
that
are the
could be
Genesis
made.
employees?
People here maybe are discovering Genesis from the first time. That's one of my favorite parts of Goodwood, is to walk around, see the new brands, see new cars, try to understand about new products that I don't really know about. you've driven a lot more of these cars than I have. What is the overall impression? How would you compare them to other cars? What would you say summarizes the Genesis driving experience? I know they've got different models, but...
Yeah, no, they're all, you drive between each model, and it's still got the same feel, the same practicality, the same comfort, and I just feel completely in comfort in them. I've driven quite a few different models, and every time I get into one, it's got a beautiful sound system, it's relaxing, it makes my photo shoot a bit more chilled, because if I've got a great big thumping engine in the back and everything's hectic, but it's nice just to get back into the car, it's relaxing. I mean, I was shooting one of the cars in Wales. Obviously, Welsh weather is interesting. It was pouring with rain, wind, and I'd just get back in the car and be like, I'm just going to relax a second before I do the next part of the photo shoot. So that's been in my impression of them. I mean, this GV60 is super impressive. I drove that in Germany. I can tell you, it can definitely fly down the autobahns. The official figures are wrong. So that car is absolutely a beast on the road. So it's been good fun driving them.
Now, I know we all love the sound of engines, but if you're looking to escape for 2 seconds, head upstairs. There's the electrified GV70, the electrified G80. Just sit in the car for 2 minutes. It is such tranquility. We were filming yesterday, and I just closed the door, and I was like, oh, just a little chime when you get in there. And I was just sitting there going, I'm just going to have a little nap. I'm going to be in here for a little bit of time and then back out for the next run up the hill. So I do recommend that if you're looking for 2 seconds of silence. But look, before we start to wrap things up, tease us. What's next after the madness of Goodwood? Where are you headed? What's on the plans?
I go to Italy in a few weeks, so that
Your
should be
favourite
nice.
place?
I love Italy, so I'm going to Italy, driving to Geneva, so it should be fun.
I think you're going to have a very good summer. If there are no final questions from the floor, now is your last chance to get anything for Alex or I.
We have one last
one
taker.
at the end. We'll sneak you in with a final question.
How have you relied on Instagram to help your career grow? And more specifically, how do you schedule posts?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Instagram, I've been on it a long time, and I built, quite a good following, which has been extremely helpful, because I think as a creative, people don't take you seriously when you're young. I was literally a dropout kid out of university. I was 19, barely anyone was taking me seriously. So when I started building my following, started taking social media seriously, I think that gave them, oh wow, this guy can actually work hard, he can do stuff, he can shoot really well, and we don't care about his age. But I think when you're in that point of your career, it's really hard to make that leap. So I think being on social media is so important. It's not something I ever want to rely on, but I think for me, it's a big passion of mine, because I love sharing my travels, the cars I'm driving, what I'm up to. I love sharing that with people. I mean, I don't care if 2 people follow me or 1 million people follow me. I think it's so important to have that establishment, because if I'm going to hire someone for a project or a production, the first thing I'll do is website and then Instagram to show what this person been up to. Website can be all polished and all lovely, but Instagram's a bit more behind the scenes. It shows what you're up to. It shows they're active. It shows the more brands they're working with. So I think it's super important to have that foundation and, showcase it and use it. And it doesn't matter if you have a smaller following, because, you can reach the right people. I think it's about reaching the right people within the industry.
And how far in advance are you scheduling posts?
Oh, scheduling.
Have you got stuff lined up till December?
No, not at all. I have a backlog of a load of work that I'd like to post. I wouldn't schedule, but I'd have a good backlog, so kind of figure out on the day what I'm feeling in terms of if I should post something travel or automotive related, so I wouldn't say I am organized, but I'm unorganized in terms of what I want to post on that day. I've got a big catalog, and then been okay, let's see what looks good on today's feed or what I want to post. But if I'm traveling, if I'm telling a story, I'll try to get posts out as soon as possible, because I love, if I'm sharing stories, if I'm in a certain country, I'd love to get out stuff live so people can, see what I'm actually up to than just seeing a video.
Perfect. Well, look, there's a lot of very exciting sounding engines blaring behind us, and I think we're all itching to get out and see what's blasting up the hill. So, Alex, huge thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Massive round of applause for Alex Stead.